Hello everyone, this is Prowler and I'm coming to you tonight just to show you how to tie a black woolly booger, just a standard woolly booger that I've had good success with lately. Now I'm starting with a size 8 barbless streamer hook and then a 4mm tungsten bead. Just put the bead on the hook and put it back in the vise, and I'm going to be using this particular fly for some real fast deep runs, so I really want it to get down, so I'm going to actually put some .030 lead wire on it as well. And when I put lead wire on, I like taking tweezers and holding this end, something that was kind of ingrained in me years ago by Chuck Morse, and put the lead wire on, get to the end, wiggle it till it breaks, and then when I let off I can take that last little piece, turn it, roll it onto the hook, and then push it up to the bead. That way I haven't wasted any lead wire, and if you go to put it on, you know, like this, you're going to be wasting about an inch every time. So over time you can tie more flies with that spool by saving the lead wire doing it that way. I'm going to be using 8/0 black thread. I'm going to build up a little dam or a base behind the lead wire, and I do that for a reason. When I have this base or dam built up behind the lead wire, and then I go to wrap over the lead wire, the thread will go in the grooves, and it has a tendency to spread the lead wire out, so this will keep it from spreading out and keep it, you know, stationary. So then I'm going to just put down a good thread base, and this is one of the areas where the Norvise really comes in handy, saves some time. So now I've got the lead wire good and secured. I'm going to come back to about the halfway point between the hook point and the bend of the hook, and that's where I'm going to tie my tail in. And back to the lead wire, if I'm tying a woolly booger or a leech without a bead, I put the lead wire on and I'll build a dam in front of it and behind it, and then I'll start going over the top, and then it can't spread out either way, so you're kind of pinning it in so that it can't go anywhere. So now I'm going to use black marabou for the tail, and I know as Big T says he doesn't really care about his tails, but I'm kind of anal when it comes to the way the tail looks on the fly, and I guess that goes back to Chuck Morse too. Everything had to be just right. He was a really good teacher. So anyway, I take the marabou and I just hold it at the tip and pull down, and then switch hands and get it to where I think it's about the right length, and I measure it to where it's about the length of the hook or hook shank, and then I just put it right here for my tie-in point. My first wrap, I'm going to do a pinch wrap, come straight down, and then I'm going to do a couple loose wraps so it won't roll on me, and then a couple more over the lead wire. And now I've got it pretty well secured, so it's okay to kind of crank down, but I'm still holding the tail as I'm doing that. And so now I've got it secured, I can let go of it, and you can see it's on top of the hook in good position, and all the ends of the marabou are even. And so then I'm going to put a couple loose wraps up toward the bead. I'm going to cut the marabou off at an angle. Then after I do that, then I can put down a little more thread base to secure the rest of that marabou. And as I'm doing this, I'm trying to kind of build a little bit of a taper, even though this is the underbody. If you build a taper on it, then when you go to put your dubbing on, it'll have a natural taper as well. So then I come back to the end of the hook, and I think on this fly I'm going to put not a lot, but just a couple strands of light blue crystal flash, just to give it a little bit of a attraction to the fish. And when I tie in the crystal flash, I've seen people tie in strands on one side and then take some totally different strands and tie in on the other side, and I really don't see the need in that or the point in it. I've got this side pretty well tied in, then I'm going to come back up body a little bit just so it'll give me enough room to wrap this over, and then get it on the side of the hook shank going back, and then I've got it secured on both sides, and I'll just trim it about even with the marabou tail. So now I've got my flash in. I'm going to come back to the original tie-in point of the tail, and I'll be using, for the body, I'm going to be using Ice Dub Peacock Black. Really like this color combination on a black streamer. And for the hackle, a lot of times I use saddle hackle, but I've gotten to where on this particular fly I like using regular dry fly hackle because it's real spiky. Gives it a real spiky appearance, and I can assure you that with that tungsten bead and the lead wire, even though this is dry fly hackle, it's not going to keep it from getting down. And when I'm tying in hackle, I think this is another tip that Chuck Morse taught me years ago, but I cut the fibers off on both sides of the stem real close, and then I pull some fibers down and pluck them off, and so I end up with, I don't know if you can see it, but I end up with a little bit of a bare stem, and then some teeth from where I cut the hackle close to the stem. Those teeth, when you're tying it in, they really help secure the fly, and they'll keep that stem from pulling out. So I get it tied down. The reason I have the bare stem is I found, through years of time, that if I use the bare stem and I've got it tied in there, the first revolution or the first wrap is just going to be bare stem, and then it gives the fibers enough time to line up so that when they start splaying out, they'll be straight and they won't be going in different directions. If you tie it in right at the fibers and you go to wrap it, you'll have some that'll be sticking back. And again, I'm probably anal more than I should be on certain things, but that's just one thing that I do. So then I take my dubbing and just start putting it on. And with dubbing, a little bit's a lot, but when I'm tying a streamer, I'm very, very generous with the dubbing. And one of the reasons that I like a lot of dubbing on a streamer is if I'm on palmer hackle forward, having a lot of dubbing kind of gives it a soft foundation so that the hackle stem will seat down in it real well. And that's my thoughts on it anyway. So then I'm going to start with the dubbing and just start coming forward. And get it right behind the bead, and then pull any of the fibers out of the way couple more wraps to secure it. Then I'm going to do a quick whip finish and get the bobbin out of the way. I'm going to take the hackle and start wrapping it forward, hammering it until I get it just behind the bead. One thing I really like about these Norvise bobbins is they're retractable, so when I come back to the fly, it's ready to go. I don't have to manually wind thread back onto the bobbin, and it's just very nice. And I would use these bobbins regardless of whether I used a Norvise or not. They're worth their weight in gold. So I get that secured and trim the hackle off. And I could leave the fly just like it is. A lot of times I'll put maybe an orange hot spot behind it, but on this one I'm just going to stay with the black. So I've done a couple whip finishes, and then a good tip that T passed on. I think we're both big fans of Zap-A-Gap, and I put a little Zap-A-Gap right there by the fly. I'll do a couple wraps with the Zap-A-Gap, and then on the last little bit of Zap-A-Gap I'll incorporate it into the whip finish so that it gets good and saturated into the thread. And you can see I probably did 3 whip finishes there, but I don't like my flies to fall apart. And this has been a really good fly on a lot of rivers, namely the Chattahoochee and Toccoa, and I'm planning on fishing the Toccoa this weekend, so this one will probably get some game time. Good fly. Hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you on the river.